that standpoint, I think it's very important, and I think a lot of people don't take it that serious because they don't really understand how much actual realness is in urban fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what he said as far as, you know, urban fiction being that voice of in the cities a lot of times. And, you know, there's such great work out there that gives an alternative, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's a lot of Antoine Thomas, I read his books, and he gives a great alternative and hope to the readers. So my book, like I said, people read it like it's fiction, but it is my real life, you know, with the journey that I've been through. And right now, like I said, what I'm thankful for, that it is hope for the people, because people are looking at me and my story saying, wow, you know, they had that deep-rooted criminal thinking like me. I spent over 25 years in the streets in 9 different states. So when people see like, yo, you can change, and they read it, it reads like a regular urban fiction, but it is my real life, like so many men in the cities. So it's that hope for them, for me, and, you know, guys like us.
Okay. Sean?
Well, urban fiction to me has 2 different definitions of meanings. Just being real, I think that urban fiction is a genre that was created so that the powers that be can put black books inside of a box. Because by definition, urban fiction just means city dwelling. And by that definition, authors like James Patterson, Leonard Elmore, and a host of other mainstream authors would be considered urban authors as well. So from that context, I definitely realize, I believe that it's a way to put us inside of a box. That's on one end. Now on the other end, what urban fiction is stories that tell our stories. Not necessarily just from the streets, but it tells about street life, not just selling drugs, not just robbery, but it tells about the urban experience, whether it be Newark, New Jersey, whether it be Atlanta, Georgia, whether it be LA, and everywhere in between. It tells about what goes on in the hood. The stories that people see on the news every night when they see the headline, urban fiction is what gets beneath that surface.
Like that. Good answer. And?
My understanding of urban fiction is, you know, like the other brother said, is details on what goes on in the inner cities, the crime, the behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't really want to talk about, the poverty, the drugs, the violence. What we do is we put it into a story. Sometimes we exaggerate it to make it a little more, to beautify it a little bit, but we also try to make it interesting, and for the most part, we try to leave a message for the readers. And from another perspective, myself, I see that I found a positive with the urban literature, because a lot of young black males and females can relate to this right here. I think it caused a lot more people to read. You know, a lot of young brothers who wasn't reading, a lot of young sisters who weren't reading, they found something that's familiar to them and kind of easier to read, so they pick it up, they enjoy the story, they can relate to it, and I think it causes them to read more. So on a positive note, I think it's bringing up our the literacy in our communities, and it's definitely empowering a lot of young males and females to want to do something more positive, because it seems like when they look at their peers are doing something like this, and it lets them know that they can do it also. So that's my understanding of the urban literature.
That's a great answer.
I loved all of the answers. That is so awesome. So now I want to, let's go. Originality and urban fiction. We've all read a book that was in the urban fiction genre, and we said, WTF, this ish was whack. Who wrote this? Don't quit your day job. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And, or we said, because I've read books, this seems like a comic book. He has 9 lives like a cat. I thought he died like in chapter 5. How is he alive? And he just does these things, like he just lives like the Bionic Man. So, originality in urban fiction. What do you think about that? Do you think that we need more of it? I'm going to start with you, and do we need more, or do people need to take creative writing classes, or stick to write about what they know? If you were never a drug dealer, you shouldn't be writing about drug dealing, per se. Who knows? But I think that when it comes to writing, you should be able to have a creative outlet swept away. Can I really be swept away if it's unrealistic, or if I feel that I've read the story before? and it lacked originality. So what do you think about that?
I think when it comes to, I believe like any form of art, whether it's books, movies, music, I think authenticity is important. You want to come with something that sounds real. So if you haven't experienced the drug dealing life and you want to write about it, I think you should research it. I think being most of this stuff being fiction, we should be allowed to create and be innovative, or come up with, pretend that we live that type of life. But again, it should be believable. It should be real. You don't want to have someone selling ounces of crack for $5. That's unrealistic. So, and you want your readers to enjoy. So when it comes to a book, you want to write really well. You want your narration to be really good. You want your dialogue to be really good. You want to paint a really good picture, and you want your story to be believable. There's not going to be any BMW with wings on it that could fly after you being chased by the police and jump off a cliff. Nah, that's some James Bond type stuff. Even with film, you want it to be believable. And then music, a lot of people are actually getting away with it in the music industry because the listeners are so young and so easily influenced by the music that a person can say anything. They can wear a bunch of fake jewelry. The sisters can come out there with some butt pads or fake butt and fake breasts, and it kind of influences a lot of the young ladies to want to think that that's how they're supposed to look. So I believe that authenticity is important, especially if you take your craft to heart, because you don't want to mislead anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. That was a great answer.
Yes. Now, how do you follow up with that?
Well, my thing is this. I do believe that we should have originality, but once again, I think that we're being held to an unfair standard when it comes to that, because if you look at, again, the mainstream, when you get a slight sidebar, I'm going to keep referencing the mainstream because it's like a drive to put us inside of a box. But we're not supposed to be. We're just as fired as everybody else. We're just as serious about our craft as everybody else. So I'm always going to try to juxtapose my answers against the mainstream.
Okay.
So that being said, shows like Law and Order, they're not original, but they have 5 spinoffs. So if they can get away with that, why can't we as authors get away with that as well? Now the problem, I think, is the quality of the writing. If it's trash in book 1, it's going to be trash in book 5 unless you learn something.
That's right.
But I think that by and large, we can still be original and authentic, but authenticity has a different meaning when it comes to this. I don't have to have sold drugs and killed 15 people to write about it. You know what I'm saying? Stephen King is not a monster, but he made billions of dollars about monsters. Who's ever been a monster? So that's not authentic. You follow me? But what it is, what's authentic to the story is the emotions, the feelings, and those things. So I do believe that we need to have originality in describing those emotions. There's nothing new under the sun, including stories. Every story has already been told. It's just the way that you tell it is what would separate you from everybody else. And that's where I think the originality is lacking at. I think that's where people need to take their craft more serious instead of just looking at it for a buck, because the cream will always rise to the top. So be original in the way that you describe these scenes. The block is the block, whether it's in Newark, Trenton, Miami, wherever. The block is the block.
True.
So be original in how you explain the block and give somebody something to feed on.
Right.
Okay.
Great answer.
Okay.
Great
So,
answer.
how does Casper follow up with that?
I mean, I definitely agree. They're making some valid points.
Yes.
Depending on the reason you got into this business, if this is something that you love doing and you're passionate about, and it was that innate gift that, that you came into this earth with, you work on being original. You don't have to steal from anybody else.
Come on.
Develop and hone your craft.
Yes.
Now, if you were one of them people that just rode the wave because you knew from around that 2003 to 2007, it was serious, then that's bad. You know what I mean? Because now it's like at times when books are struggling, what are you really going to do? I agree. Like I said, I like writers who did this from the heart. You see what I'm saying? When Flowers Bed, was coming, when he first put Flowers Bed out, it was the beginning of it. So it ain't like he jumped on a wave that was, at his peak and said, I need to hurry up and get a few dollars.
Right.
Same thing for me. In prison, writing was my catharsis, and I just wrote about my real life. You see what I'm saying? So I agree. Originality is serious. And like he said, though, the way that I don't think you had to sell drugs to write about drug dealing or what you've seen, because we have so many people that's affected by it in the city that don't have to see it. Them that didn't have to have lived it, but they shouldn't lie and, you know what I mean, about the way, it depends on how you tell a story. You can tell it from, another's perspective, and, and don't really paint the picture acting like you were a kingpin, because then somebody's going to expose you.
That's right.
So I don't, I don't really agree with that. But if you like writing about urban fiction, ain't nothing wrong with that. Just it's the way you tell a story. You didn't have to live it. You can tell it from, third person or something like that. So originality is important to me. Especially, like I said, I write self-help books, so I couldn't write something that I don't live.
Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Originality is very important. I think that it really goes to passion, because every story has been told 1,000 different ways. And when you think of music, we all know that all the good music was back in the day. It was Marvin Gaye, it was Tammy Terrell, it was Luther. And nowadays, music is so bad that even though all of these songs are done over, when you hear somebody like The Weeknd, you're blown away as if he's the greatest thing in the world. It's just that he's much more passionate than all the other people that are putting music out right now. So that's why when his songs come on, you get excited and you want to make love and you want to dance and you want to do all this other stuff. It's the same thing, but his passion is greater than these other people, because nowadays, just like writing, it's so easy to self-publish a book and put it out there that the quality is being degraded over and over again, just like music. So originality is important, but it goes to the passion. And when you have a strong passion for what you do, it doesn't matter if it's been done 1,000,000 times. When you do it and you put your spin on it and your feelings on it, it's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely.
I like
love
that
answer.
I got a question that came in because we are on Facebook, doing this live, and the question was, who tells the better story, the reformed drug dealer or the kid who never sold drugs that has a vivid imagination? Who would like to take a stab at that one?
I think experience is like the best teacher. So I would, in my personal opinion, I think a person telling a story about drug dealing will be better told by someone who actually experienced it than someone who's pretending and just made it up. Because like everyone said, it's all about the passion. It's hard to feel something that you've never experienced. And for those of us who have, been out there in the streets and selling drugs and committing crimes and everything, when we talk about it, it's gonna probably affect us emotionally, because it's like we're reliving it. And I think we're gonna be genuine with our telling the story, talking about the consequences, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, in my opinion, if you've been through it, it may be a better story. However, when it comes to stuff like music, we have people like white rappers who are doing an extraordinary job musically, and some of them may not have experienced some of this stuff. So I think and on one note, I think the one who's experienced, they can tell an extraordinary story, and then you have some people who are just blessed with the talent, and their minds is on a whole nother level, and they can talk about anything and be real witty with it and worded so crazy that it comes out better than some of these authentic stories.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it can go either way. A few weeks ago, I was down at the Patapsco with Antoine, and we met a little girl that touched me. She almost had me in tears. She was about 9 years old. She looked at my cover. She said, "So you've been to jail?" And I said, "Yes, unfortunately, too many times. But that's over for me. I've turned my life around." And she stopped. She looked at me. She said, "Well, my daddy's in jail." I said, "I'm sorry to hear that." And she said, it's okay. It's like he go to jail every month.
Oh.
Right? So now I'm like touched, and I'm saying, ooh, and I can feel the pain coming from her. And then I said, well, I hope that he gets it together when he come home. She said, I hope so too, because he got 8 kids out here. So I can see later somebody like her putting a book out and having a huge effect because it's telling the story from another point of view.
Emotionally,
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, depending on, you know, like I said, certain people, it could go in either way and be a powerful story. Because like I said, she almost had me.
Look, you're about to get me in my feelings.
And she was only 9 years old, and I could see the pain coming from her not having that dad there and him going so much. And I was like, oh, she almost had me like.
Wow, that's powerful. So Shaun, what?
He kind of took on what I was going to say. First of all, answer to the questions, whoever works on their talent, that's who's going to write the better book. But nah, seriously, they can look at it from a different aspect, because someone who never sold drugs, they don't have the bias that the drug dealer would have. Because a lot of times when the drug dealer's telling a story, they're trying to find some kind of way to justify their actions, or either try to, like, as a catharsis to justify their actions, or either try to not claim responsibility, for lack of a better word. Whereas someone who hasn't sold it, they can tell the story in full without having those particular bias or prejudice. Like the drug dealer, a lot of drug dealers don't like the jack boy. So he wouldn't even get any shine in that story. You know what I'm saying? Whereas somebody who's on the outside looking in, they're gonna tell about the drug dealers selling the block. They're gonna tell about the jack boy trying to get them. They're gonna talk about the police. They're gonna talk about the women. They have a broader perspective because they're not caught up in it. They're not the tree. They're looking at the whole forest. So
That's good.
That's definitely good.
I have a question. As talking about urban fiction, and as you guys are writing, are you writing books based upon people you actually know? Now we know for Jamel, we know that your book is pretty much, you know, talking about you. But for the rest of you, how do you character development? Is it based on people that you know, or is it just something that you've heard about, or how does that happen for you? And I see the wheels spinning, so I'm gonna start with you.
Well, for me, the first book that I actually wrote was No Regrets, which was loosely based on my own life.
Okay.
When I finished the first version of the manuscript, I knew that I had to change up a lot of names. I had to change up a lot of scenarios also. And that's where I had to put my creativity at work, because there may have been a situation where, let's say, the character in the book, there was a young lady in No Regrets who her children had died from a fire. But I got the idea from a young lady who had tossed her children off the roof. So I had to switch the whole thing around so it wouldn't be too relative to something that really happened. But most of my stories I try to come from a reality, something that had really happened. So Flower's Bed, which was actually my bestseller, it details the story of a young lady who's been molested by her dad when she was a young lady. Now, I've never been through that, but I know a lot of young ladies who have been molested by a family member. And the struggles that the young lady went through, these young ladies have also gone through the same thing, or they're going through it now. And I think one of the most important things is that a lot of these young ladies have in common is most of them blame themselves. And most of them are afraid to share the story because they're embarrassed. They believe that it's not going to be believed. And they also think that by being scarred like that, that it's going to take something away from them and their character and make them less of a woman. So a lot of people don't address it. They just put it in the back of their mind and pretend like it never happened and just go on. But I think if more people spoke about things like this, it'll have a lot more people bringing awareness about it. And it's possible that crimes like this will be a lot less because more people are talking about it and have no problem reporting it to the authorities. So to me, Flower's Bed was a very important story. And yes, you know, stuff like the acts that went on in this book happened to people who were very close to myself.
Okay, thank you. Shaun?
A lot of my books, I started writing inside a penitentiary. So a lot of my books was like, what if? When you're doing time, one of the hardest things for me personally is wondering how I'm gonna provide for myself once I get out. So coming from the background that I came from, it was like all I knew was one thing: streets. But I knew that I didn't want to do that upon my release. So I started coming up with different ways of making money, doing a lot of research and different reading. So with my first book that I actually put out, Forbidden, the central theme was based around an escort service. So that's how it started.
Okay.
Because in my mind, when I was inside, I was like, hey, you know what? I can actually do this because it's legal. An escort service, correction. It's unethical, but it is legal. Now,
Right.
when you start doing other things,
Right.
it's different.
Right.
So the way my mind works, I write all my books in my head first. But prior to me writing books in my head, I used to live out my life in my head, for lack of a better word. So I would go through the different steps. Maybe I have to do this. Maybe I have to do that. And over time, I was like, you know what? I can really do this. But I started becoming a little more religious. So I was like, well, I can't do that. But I had thought about this idea and contemplated it for so long. Where would the idea go? And at that time, I had just started learning about my craft, like my gift. I didn't know. So I said, you know, let me play around that. So the central theme around this was the escort service. And then I started writing. You know, you start realizing that you need other characters inside it. So I started basing one character on my dad, who's passed away. I started basing another character on my brother, and then the bit players, for lack of a better word, were the guys I've seen around the joint. You know what I mean? I would look at this guy and say, you know what? He won't know it. I'm not going to sue me, but I was like, you know, this could be him.
Right.
You know, so if this guy's tall and dark skinned, I'll make the character the complete opposite physically. But a lot of the characteristics of that person, I will make it like them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Kisha.
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
I base most of my characters after people that I know. And to throw it off a little bit, what I'll do is, if they're annoying to a 10% degree in real life, I'll put it up to 90 in the book.
Okay.
So I exaggerate their characteristics, but everybody gets a part. I mean, you know, my brother gets on my nerves, so in the book, he's a guy that just really gets on your nerves. My ex-wife was a whore in the book. I make sure to, you know, I balance it out that way. So, yeah, everybody gets a part.
And that's why that book's going to be a bestseller. Okay.
I said keep it real.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Okay. Wow.
Wow. We weren't expecting that one.
No.
But that's perfect. Like when we do the show, that's a Writers Life Chats exclusive. We heard it here first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hope the ex-wife isn't watching, but
Right?
anyway.
I know. It's like whores to housewives, housewives to whores, whatever. I can dig it. It makes for good fiction. I mean, it is what it is. So now, you guys, originality and urban fiction, what would you say could make it better? I mean, we talked about, okay, you got to have passion. Of course, you know, that makes for a great story. But what could make it better? I often pose this question on Facebook and other social media sites, and I ask, what's wrong with the African American literary community? How can it get better? And then people, you know, they dissect it and say, well, what are you going to do to improve it? And it's like, I'm just asking a question. So what do you think could make urban fiction better? I'm leaving it up to you guys. Who would like to go first?
Again, in my personal opinion, I think what can make urban literature better would be the writing of the person. Not necessarily the story, but how well a person writes. And I'll compare this to what they have now, which is called urban cinema, also known as web series. So a lot of the web series that are out right now, they're very similar in context. They're doing the same things, talking about crime, talking about drugs, talking about sex. But a lot of the stories are different. And some of them differ in quality. So when it comes to the books, me and the brother right here, we can write like the same book, same title, same story. If one of us is a better writer, that story is going to come out better. If his spelling and his grammar and his description, his wordplay, and describing a situation or scenario is better written than mine, his story is going to come out better. So I think what we need to bring back into urban literature or urban cinema is we need better writers. And I think we need to take our time with it. There's nothing wrong with going into the dictionary. Everything doesn't have to be ebonics or slang. We don't have to always talk like that.
Yes.
It's 2016. People are becoming smarter.
Yes.
There's a lot more opportunities with schools like college and stuff. So people are getting more knowledge, more education. We don't have to be considered stupid anymore. And I think we can display that intelligence in our work. And I think we need to start doing it. And when we do see great work out there, I think a lot of the competitors will try to mimic that. And overall, everything will get better. If everybody's trying to be better than the best, everything will get better. But when we have these platforms or these outlets where we can put things out ourselves, right? And we say, and there's no more standard. Like there used to be a standard when we wrote the books. We submit our 5 chapters to a company or publishing label or whatever, and they would have some, I guess, some knowledgeable people who are judging that book. And some people will say, well, the writing is horrible. We're going to reject that. You have to come better. Now, people are able to just upload books themselves. And
Absolutely.
they don't have any proofreaders. And they think that their brother or their homeboy or their homegirl is
An editor.
an editor. And they like, yeah, the book is dope. And a lot of times, these supporters are just telling them that the work is good because they know the story. They probably got a shout out in the story, so they're like, you know what, the joke is dope, put it out.
5 stars.
Right. And then you have the people begging for reviews, and they're asking again, their homeboys and homegirls, hoping that they would get like a good review. Now you have these horrible stories with great reviews.
Yes.
And there's new people reading every day.
Yes.
Right.
So if you have these new readers that come across some trash that has 5 stars, they're going to believe that that's the standard. And they're going to accept a whole bunch of garbage.
Exactly.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
For me being a reviewer, for me being a promoter and a proofreader, that's the problem with the industry because I don't want to say it's Amazon's fault that they came out with the KDP program because that's not it. But they made it easy for Jane Doe to become author Jane Doe. And we have a lot of books out there that, like you were saying, and they're not edited, they're not anything. They typed it on their phone on a subway ride home one night, let their friend read it. She said it was fire. They opened an account, and now it's up there. And now I'm going to get this room full of people to go to Amazon and give me 5 stars. Now I have 80 reviews. Then someone like me looks at these reviews saying it's fire. I read the book. I thought it was garbage. And now I'm questioning, like, well, what the hell's wrong with me? Because we clearly weren't reading the same book.
That's right.
So then when I go and give it 2.5, 3 stars, just like Beyonce has that Beehive, I have these people, Kisha Green's a hater. Because what? I can read and comprehend, and I thought that your first paragraph was grammatically incorrect. And if I mention that, what are you talking about? I told you grammatically incorrect. If you don't know what that means, then maybe you should look those words up. You should hint or you shouldn't be an author because it doesn't flow right. And touching on the publishing part of it, just because you have a Grammarly, the software, does not make you an editor. So you taking that software, taking that manuscript and uploading it, it's still a problem. And like you were saying, it's all of these books now, this is what society says is the norm. So if you release your book, it's a quality book, it's really 5 stars, they're not going to read it. And if they do read it, they're like, oh, that shit's whack. Oh, that's boring. Or why he using those big words? And that's crazy. And it just goes downhill. And we're looking like, well, what happened? And so you guys are all authors, and I know you've had someone say, I wasn't really feeling that book. And it makes you wonder, well, what the hell was you reading before? Yeah. You know? So.
I have somewhat of a question / comment. And you talked about having your family review the book, and I think that's very important. I think that somewhere along the line, we need to have a big poster somewhere that says, do not have your family members review your book, or friends. Thank you. Because no matter what, like you said, they're going to be biased. And so how do we if you have a suggestion, any of you, how do we get that out there? Like, please, 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 go ahead, Sean. How do we stop that?
I think that my next answer to that ties into the previous question as well.
Mm-hmm.
We need to establish a code of conduct.
There you go. There you go.
But we have to be real about ourselves and do it, because the reason why they can say things like urban, going back to what I was saying earlier, that's what they do when they say urban books. That's why they put us in that category.
Yes.
Because that's what they're expecting from
because
us. It's
that's
like,
what they're
oh, it's going to be a poorly written book, so stick it over
Absolutely.
there in the black. But the black books is no different than Donald Trump, the African American books go over there.
Right.
Put them over there.
Yeah, I reject that designation for that same reason, because that's what they do. They put us in that bracket, but now you can't put it on them. We have to take responsibility.
Yes,
for ourselves.
right.
We have to establish some type of code of conduct.
Yes.
Like right now, you can't go to the major publishing houses without somebody bringing you in. They don't agent. They don't accept unsolicited materials. That's their code of conduct. That's their structure. That's what weeds out all the nonsense. So at some point, we as authors, as industry professionals as well, we have to take our own thing under our own arms and make it better. So we can weed out that stuff. We have to establish a standard. You know what I mean?
I agree.
In order for the business to thrive.
It has to be. There has to be some rules. There has to be, because the same way that you can't go to Simon and Schuster with some bull, you shouldn't be able. Me being a publisher, you should be able to come to me. I've received manuscripts that were typed in all caps. They were in red fonts and everything crazy. You wouldn't send it to Random House that way. You wouldn't send it to Simon & Schuster. So why on earth would you send it to Diva Books that way? And then you have people who type that, you know, they're going to submit things in all caps, and this is the standard. I've read printed physical, no lie, a real book in all caps. That's unacceptable. I was just on Facebook. Someone said that they wanted to start putting the barcode on the spine. Start something different. You can't change what the reality is. You see all those books right there on the table? Where's the barcode? In the back of the book. Like, and so all of these trends, like, for what? I don't need to put I'm a best-selling author. I don't have to do anything. The title, the picture, and the name of the author. But everyone wants to change it, and, you know, this presents best-selling author, standalone novel, part of a trilogy, all of these things, and it's not necessary because you don't see these anywhere when you talk about mainstream.
Right.
So when we do things like that, that's why it's over there in that urban fiction bucket or the black books, because they're labeled, they're, you know, packaged up like that. And I feel like, why? I've always asked the question, if, you know, people say, I can write as good as James Patterson or Stephen King. Okay, so if that's true, if we took your book and their book and had no cover, whose book would be better? Go ahead.
One of the things that I've been learning since I released this, I've been talking to different bookstore owners, and me and Miss Patrice discussed this earlier. Certain stores are making, you know, authors and publishers, you know, live to a certain standards with their products. I spoke to a store in Virginia, and it even occurred to me, because she said, you know, I'm talking to the owner, she said, where did you get your book printed from? I said, through CreateSpace. She said, I don't see nothing through CreateSpace because they don't make nobody proofread. And it's, sometimes when you hold people to them kind of standards, you're going to make them stop and be mindful.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just going elsewhere, whether you get in that store or not, it still stops to make you be mindful that people are paying attention. And me and Miss Patrice talked about an author that had a good book, but he had so much grammatical errors in it that people were sending the books back. And you know what I mean? A lot of people didn't want to carry it. So, you know, and that's what a lot of authors, especially somebody just coming in now, you need to know that you got to really get your stuff proofread and do it the right way.
And properly edited and so forth.
Yes.
So, and let me ask you a question. Now we're going into the editing part of urban fiction. When you self-published your first book, did you know what an editor was and what an editor entailed, their job, and what they would be doing for your book?
Well, I actually edited my own material. I edited every time I would get a manuscript in. I would be reading it to see if it was worthy of my company, but I would also automatically edit everything that my hands touched. I was editing. If I got like a book, if I got a book in from my people sending me a book in, you know, just for entertainment, as I'm reading it, I have my pen with me and I'm editing, only because I wanted to get better. And I would also read like mainstream, like the brother here said. I would also read mainstream material just to see how their stuff is structured, so I know that I'm going in the right direction. I wasn't just going off of, well, because Antoine knows how to write a sentence, that this is the correct way. No, I put my thoughts up against other stuff that was considered extraordinary, and I said, well, I guess this is what I need to write like. And like I said, I ended up editing my own material, and I also had in my head that my material probably needs to be proofread at least 5 times over. So I will read it front to back, backwards to front, sideways, just so I can see it differently. And I would continue doing it until I feel like I've caught every mistake, until I believe that every sentence was written the best way that it could be written. And I told myself I would not release any project unless I was totally satisfied by it.
Okay. Well, what do you say to the naysayers that say you edited your own book? Isn't that like a lawyer representing themselves in court? What's your rebuttal for that?
Well, I believed at the time that I was qualified to do it. And I think if an attorney is a certified attorney, and if he's allowed to represent himself and he believes that he's good enough, then do so. I feel like if a person who feels like they can possibly edit, they shouldn't go with the possible. They should go with what's the definite. So
Okay.
I was very confident that I could pull it off.
Okay.
And that's why I went ahead and did it.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to now, for me, Kisha Green, who's always dropping a literary jewel, I'm always screaming at authors, do not edit your own book. Do not get an editor. So now you're saying you felt you were qualified to do it. And so now we move to the point of, well, what did your readers say? Did they agree with you? Has anyone ever mentioned to you about the editing?
No, I've always been good with my editing, but I'm not going to take 100% credit. What I did was, as I would write my book, I would send it out to a young lady who would actually type it on Microsoft Word, because at the time when I was writing in prison. The only thing I had was a pen and a pad and the typewriter in the law library. So I would do my own editing. I was always writing my stories in pen. I would do my own editing in pen. Once I transferred to typing, I would edit as I go. And then once it was done and I sent it out to the young lady whose job was just to put it on Microsoft Word and to do grammar and spell check, after she sends it back, I would then go over it again. So she would tighten it up a little bit.
Okay.
Probably a little bit better than what I had, and then I would try to tighten it up even better than what she had.
Okay. I can dig it. Sean?
I want to touch on that one. Like the brother here, I edit all mine as well. But there's a method to my madness. Again, like him, most of my books I wrote, and I still write regular, like write. So when I'm typing it, I'm editing it. The way my mind works, I've been reading books since I was 8, literally. So I'm in my 30s, so if you think about it, that's before any urban book came. So I have a pretty good grasp of the English language. Even when I was going to college, I clept my freshman year of college, I clept my English. For those who don't know what CLEP means, it's college level examination program. So it's just my gift. This is my thing, words. So if I didn't feel confident in it, I wouldn't do it. Now, for those who, I do agree that it's not easy for everybody to do it. But with my books, I've written numerous books. So by the time I go back to work on the book I'm getting ready to release, I've already set it on the shelf for about 3-4 months. So whenever I go back, I'm looking at it with fresh eyes as a reader. So that gives me a little advantage. Now, Forbidden was my first book. This is probably my 3rd or 4th version of Forbidden. As far as the package and everything, I would say it's perfect. As perfect can be. The reason why, because every time I saw something wrong, if I had 3 errors, I went back and changed it, take it back to the printer. That's my personal standard, because I want Pen to Pen Publishing to be the standard. I don't want it to be the standard in urban publishing. I want it to be synonymous with quality, period. So that's my personal standard. And now, as far as the readers always going to let you know
Right.
So as we go as authors and publishers, we learn things. So this what makes me more confident in my decision. Recently, I've sent all my books back through a professional editing house, right? And they do great work, by the way. I'll drop a plug later. Seriously, they do great work. But and this is no ego here. They did a proof of my books, and they found 3 mistakes. That's it. So if it's not broke, I'm not gonna fix it. Last but not least, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I know what I want my book to sound like. The editing house may not. I know what it is. So if I can lose the game, what I put on the court, I'm okay with that. Because if I win what I put on the court, I'm gonna be okay with that too. But I'm not gonna allow anybody else to change my story because I know I see here.
Okay. Quashon Davis, look, you over there quiet. You ain't off the hook.
What do you mean? I've had a few editing nightmares. A couple of them Kisha Green knows about. I wouldn't try to edit my own work. When my first book was written and I hand wrote it in a notebook, I went to a seminar about self-publishing, and that's where I learned the importance of picking up a book that was called The Self-Publishing Manual by Dan Poynter. And that book basically took you through everything step by step, and it talked about how important it was to have your book edited properly. And it's basically like when you meet someone for the first time and you have bad breath, you can never go back and change it. You're gonna have one chance to make that first impression, and he stressed that. So that told me, because I know that I can write, I know that I use great grammar and all those other things, but I'll miss something. So to avoid that, try to find a really good editor, let them do it, and then even after that, you read it again, you have somebody else read it again, and that would be my method, because I know me, I know that I'll leave something on the table that shouldn't be there, so but that's my opinion.
Okay. And you said something earlier about the readers, and Kisha, you touched on this as well. With authors having to take, and Shaun, you said it too, responsibility for what they put out. I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to say the readers have a responsibility as well. And I say that because if we accept the garbage that's being put out there, then someone's going to say, okay, you know what, I have a 5-star book that is actually a 1-star book, or it's, you know, but I have a handful of readers that are saying that, you know, they're following me, and you know, they believe in me, they support me, and they will always support me. I'm the type of reader, no, you know, I'm going to let you know, where you went wrong. You know, I talk about character development, timing, and bridging, right? All of that plays a part for me. So you guys, I hear you talking, and you're putting you guys put some of the blame on yourself. No, it's not solely your responsibility. It is ours as well. And I think as readers, we need to know that.
Sometimes we're trying with social media. I say it all the time. It's a gift and a curse. And with social media, I like you.
Right.
You're nice. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
You send me free books.
Right.
You tag me when 848 comes on.
Right.
You are the man. Right? So your book might have been garbage, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I'm always going to give you 5 stars, and you're always going to send me books, and you're going to tell your friends like Kisha Green, she rocks with me, this, that, and the third. And that's a problem, because I should respect you and what you're trying to do, to say like, and you know what, I really wasn't feeling that, or it wasn't that great, but we don't. We want to be friends, and social media makes it, they give you the max of 5,000 people. They all are your friends per se. But are they? Because my friend would tell me, there's a quote, a real friend will tell you when your face is dirty. And so I know what's wrong. So do you feel like you get people who come to you those reasons, like where from them?
I want to say about that. I touched upon social media, and social media nowadays are influence or encouraging people to only look for, I guess, numbers or like with likes or whatever. So with the social media, they also have people trying to figure out what it is that determines acceptance. So let's say when it comes to a book, if they're on a status that someone is talking about a book, and 90% of the people are saying that it's a good book, that one person might be afraid to say that it's not a good book because they're going to feel like they're not going to be accepted by everybody else on that status.
Yep.
So there's like some peer pressure, and people are just being influenced by the numbers that are, I guess, judging that particular thing. And I think a lot of people aren't being authentic. Now, when you say that our friends, they should let us know when we have some garbage, sometimes it's the delivery, right? How you come to a person and let them know that they have some trash. Because I have a lot of friends that have music that's totally garbage. I may not say anything to them about it because, not that I want to hurt their feelings, but the way they accept it. Now they might become a little angry, or they may not even want to hear what I'm trying to say. So it depends on the person that I need to let them know about their material, how I think they're going to accept it. If I think they're going to be a little funny style with it, I'm not going to say anything. And even with females, a lot of females do this nowadays. You might walk up to one of your friends and they might smell a little funny. And females be like, well, she can smell it. I'm sure she can. So I'm not going to say anything. You know, because that's on her. So it's kind of like the same thing whether it's booking or females. We kind of leave it up to the person. We think that the people know that their book is trash. They don't really know because that's their level of education, level of knowledge. So to them, they have the max, and they think that it's dope. And a lot of people don't want to read other stuff and try to compare the other stuff and say, well, you know what, that other book right there that I read, let's say True to the Game or Be More Careful, they might not read that. Those were dope books.
Yes,
and they should
absolutely.
use stuff like that as a platform and a standard, like we keep talking about. And say, you know, I need to write something like that. The stories were good, but the writing was really, really great.
Absolutely.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I think another reason is because a lot of readers are aspiring authors as well. So they may feel like if they tell this author, yo, your stuff ain't nothing, then that'd be equivalent to crushing someone's dreams. And they know what it's like to have their dreams crushed. They know what it's like to have somebody say, yo, you can't write. You need to go back to the drawing board. So whenever they're trying to aspire to be a writer themselves, they're going at it with that aspect. So y'all need to encourage them instead of kicking them down. When, like the brother said, there is a way to do that, and it's called hack.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, last but not least, industry is about networking and politicking. So a lot of people may feel like, well, man, if I tell him she's new book not hot, he might not give me that cameo 848. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So they just hold it in peace.
Can we get a cameo?
Absolutely. If I had the cameras with me right now, we'd all be in 848.
All right.
I love giving people opportunities.
All right. And speaking of 848, we were talking a little bit before the camera came on about the web series. And so we have seen that a lot of authors now are getting into web series. And in case anyone watching does not know, Antoine Inch Thomas is the creator of 848 web series. And could you tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts on going from books to web series?
Absolutely. Yeah, 848 is a web series based out of the Bronx. It's an ongoing story about a group of drug dealers who are trying to cover as much area in the Bronx and put their product out there, but they are always met by enemies, adversaries, the authorities, but they're still trying to find a way to, take over and cover the entire Bronx. Now, that's the synopsis of 848. The transition from books to, let's say, web series, I think is a minor platform where I'm headed, which is to major films and major motion pictures. I think the web series is a dope platform. It's kind of like how we was talking about with the books. We're able to just put out things on our own. Mm-hmm. However, what's more important is that we want to make sure that we are putting out quality.
Yes.
I'm not saying that my stuff is perfect and it's the best, but I make sure that the quality is good because I have a team around me who will not allow things to be released unless it's not dope, unless
You
it's
have
not
real
on point.
friends. You have real friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed with one of my teammates who was really, really good with production and film and everything, and he came with his craft, and he was also open-minded and said to himself, you know what, as I'm doing this, I believe I'm going to get better. So let me try new things, let me try this, let me try that. And we had to trust him with that, just like the team had to trust me with the writing. You know, sometimes we may film things out of sequence, and when I send a script to somebody, they looking at it like, yo, why do you have me doing this? Why am I paired up with this person? And I'm like, well, there's something else that hasn't happened yet. And then I didn't want to bombard them with too much, and now they kind of, it's like too much for them to remember, so I will explain to them, look, this situation happens before that, this is why you're going to be with this person. So they, after a while, they say, you know what, whatever you send me, we're going to get on it, we're going to trust you, and we're going to go with it. But the web series platform, I think is really important to film nowadays because it's becoming huge. YouTube, they're allowing us to put these stories up there directly from us on our own, and more people are hearing about it, and I think it's gonna get the attention of Hollywood eventually.
All right.
Like right now, Amazon has a program set up where you can sell any videos that you put up. So whether it's a web series, whether you're selling the entire web series, episode by episode, a video of someone doing a cartwheel, they're allowing you to sell it. So I guess maybe eventually we may not even need the red box, like how Blockbuster went out of business.
Right.
So, but my advice to anyone doing a web series, I would encourage everybody to exercise the ability to do something like a web series. Do it. If you can do it, if you want to do it, go do it.
I want to do it.
But before you do, make sure you have some quality cameras.
Yes.
For production.
I can't use my iPhone.
You can.
Come
use your
down.
iPhone. You can. But just make sure that your focus is really good. Make sure the sound is good. Make sure your lighting. Make sure your script. It's just like with the books, you want to tell a really, really good story.
Right.
So you have the good story combined with good quality, and I think eventually you have a great product overall.
And I just want to say, for anyone who has not watched it, the cameraman, the interviews is probably one of the best that I've seen. So I know I continue to tell you that, but I need for other people to see the difference. Yeah.
Was he on the show?
He is on the show.
Yeah,
No, was he on when we interviewed the cast? Was he?
Yes.
I thought so. What's his name?
So shout out to my cameraman Aubrey Williams, aka Pretty Tone, on the show.
Yes. I thought he was on the show. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aubrey, he's a photographer. He's a videographer. He does videos. He does photo shoots. He's also a chef, so he caters events. He has all that. So you want to reach out to Aubrey Williams. Hit him up. He's available to film whatever you need to be filmed. He's a really good person, real humble, professional. I know we kind of pushed the time.
Yes. There's a question right next to me, so.
Okay.
My name is Johnna Collier. I promote for Shaun. How you doing? Along with my daughter Danielle. Do you feel like the authors out now have no originality when it comes to titles of the books? But then are they putting your genre in danger because of the lack? Yeah, the lack of. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that it is. Yeah, I do too, but
when it's on a book,
exactly to the point where you can't read it.
For the book called Lemonade or Here Becky with
Right.
It's coming.
I mean, does it affect you because of the quality of work that you put out, and in the same genre as you?
Well, personally, it doesn't affect me because I look at some of the stuff that's going on now with the ratchet titles or the title of every new song that come out.
Yes.
I look at that as people are just not putting enough energy into what it is they're doing, and it's probably more about finances.
It's
Yeah.
the next come up versus passion. I tell people if I was in this for the money, I would have left 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not about the money for me. So yeah, they think that's what's going to sell. So if Becky with the good hair, that's popular, you're going to one click that.
Right,
But
right.
okay, we're not going to read something else by another author because that sounds boring.
Right,
So
right.
I think that goes back to the originality and the creativity. It's like think outside the box. Like,
Right,
that's all
right.
you could come up with. I mean, granted, I like Beyonce too, but I ain't naming my book
Right.
after nothing because I ain't getting no money from her. I ain't getting no shout out. Jay-Z ain't coming over to talk.
I'm done with you, Kisha.
Exactly.
Well,
I'm
because
like,
those books with those ratchet titles are often promoted and often sold, people think that that's what I need to come out with. That's
Yeah,
what I need to
yeah.
do.
You
But I
want to
think
fit in.
overall,
You want to fit in.
yeah, you want to fit in. But I think overall, if a product or merchandise is really good, it's going to speak for itself. No matter how saturated the industry is, you know, what's out there, you still have some authors who are brand new authors who have really good work, and their book will stand alone by itself. No matter the title, no matter what the top or what the story is about. If it's really good, people are going to talk about it.
I like that. Thank you. This is so dope.
Yeah.
I say this when we do the show. Like, this is so dope. I love
Can
talking
I
to
ask a
authors.
question to the panel?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What's your name and where you from?
Oh, my name is Carl. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn in the house.
I reside in Orange, New Jersey.
Okay.
I come here to support my partner, Shaun Sinclair.
All right.
We've been incarcerated together in South Carolina. And my question is to the panel is, like I said, I've been incarcerated. And when I started reading, you know, it enlightened me a lot. And it helped me be the person that I am today because I'm no longer a bad person. And I heard one of the gentlemen said that urban novels, it helps you to start to read, which is true. Because most people that's from the urban neighborhoods, they need something to read, and they relate to that, so that's the way they start reading. But at some point, sometimes when you read urban novels, my opinion, it becomes a problem. That's my opinion. You know, it's not fact.
Right.
But what my question is to the panel is, do you think it's a problem when you have too many urban novels in existence? Because, like hip-hop, for example. Hip-hop, when it started, it was for the upliftment of the black community. That was the ideal of it. Same thing with urban novels, I feel. That was the ideal of it.
Right.
But as we began to proceed, it became like the lady that said it became ratchet. So do they think that urban novels is a problem? Or is it, you know, is it okay? That's like, I read Shaun Sinclair books, like I read his books while I was in prison. I know that he has a lot of food for thought in his books. So I could deal with that.
Right.
But not all books have food for thought.
That's right.
So my question to the panel is urban novels considered to them to be okay?
Since you mentioned your name.
It goes back to what I keep saying. I don't want to sound like the mad rapper, but that's why I detest that term urban. If you want to give yourself a designation, that's different. But I detest that designation urban because, like, for example, like you just said, my books got food. Those who have read my books, I'm always trying to put food in it. I always put the medicine inside the candy. So if my book gets classified as an urban book, someone is not going to read it because of that. Someone isn't going to read it. So that's why I detest that. One thing that we have to do, we have to stop allowing other people to identify our works.
Yes.
Because again, like James Patterson, great author, but his Cross series, it's easy to
Either or.
it could be an
Yeah.
urban book.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I don't like that term urban. Now that being said, it is a lot of, I'm not gonna say trash because that's someone's dream, but there are a lot of subpar books out there.
There you go.
But the cream is always going to rise to the top. Like you said, it's eventually going to stand out. Let me tell you. Okay, you know, let me tell the story real quick. And this is why I'll never knock the urban genre.
Okay.
When I was inside, I used to teach, right? And I used to teach, obviously I used to teach English. So there was a student who remained nameless, but he from Chuck. So he was sitting right in front of the class, and this is when Terry Woods was really popping. So he was reading a Dutch book. But I would give him an assignment, and he wouldn't read. In fact, even in class, he wouldn't read. So I said, hey, but while I'm teaching, I noticed him reading a book. So one day I stopped the class and said, wait a minute. I said, look, you're telling me you can't read. You don't do the assignments, you're telling me you can't read. If you can't read, why are you not paying attention to me? Because you're reading this book. You know what his response was? I can read this because I can relate to this. I can't read that. I can't understand it. I can read this because I can relate to it. So what he was saying was that, look, it's not that black people can't read, because they always say hide something from a black person by putting it in a book. It's not that we can't read, but traditionally speaking, there weren't books written for us. So I'll never knock the urban genre, because one man's trash is another man's treasure. Mind you, this guy was in school, so he didn't have his GED or his diploma, but he was reading. So guess what? That guy got introduced to reading through urban books. And eventually, whenever his intellect level raises, his selection of books will raise.
Yes.
But guess what? The new him is right below him. So he made that urban book may work for him.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I know we're strapped for time and everything. I again want to thank you seriously. This has been something I've wanted to do for so long, and you guys made my dream, my vision, an actual reality today, and I'm forever thankful. So you guys can always come back. So everybody's like, Chad, I'm giving y'all the money. Always come back to the show, okay? But thank you so much. Before we end this out, just where can people, find you, stay in the loop with you, because you all are like doing so many great things. And we'll start with you and go on down, and we'll exit it.
You can check me out. I'm on Facebook, Antoine Inch Thomas. I'm on Amazon, Antoine Inch Thomas. We got the Poppin' web series jumping right now, 848. That's on YouTube. The first season is completed. Second season started this past Wednesday. We're going to bring you a full season of 13 episodes, season 2, like we did in season 1. So just check us out every week. And join the 848 group. If you know about it, on
I didn't know
Facebook.
about that. Can you add me? I didn't know about that one.
848
I want to
series.
say to him about 848. I posted the link the other day, and I'm like, is anybody going to tune in to watch this? And one of my Facebook friends, she lives in upstate New York, and she's like, I've been hearing about this. No. And Inch was on it, so she was like, well, I can't start season 2 because I haven't did season 1. He had every episode.
Yes.
I was like, wow, like he wasn't playing, like, and she was just like, oh wow, like she couldn't say nothing, and I was just like, that's what I'm talking about. Like he was on it, because you never know. And now this woman is going to tune in. She got every episode, and now she becomes a fan. That's all it takes, and that's what when I talk to readers and bridging the gap, they say oftentimes that, well, they don't talk to me. They don't make me feel like I'm important or that it even matters. And that right there was customer service one-on-one. And you know what's going to happen. She's going to be a supporter because he took the time to do that. Because anybody else would have been, and I've seen it like, oh, Google it. Or just go on YouTube and type my name.
Right.
But he gave her every episode. So that was dope.
Inch is very out. Anyone who is questioning, he is very good about connecting with his readers, group members. I will say that.
I just became familiar with him more so, and I will definitely say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shaun
Sinclair.
Oh, you can find me at all the social sites, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Authors Shaun Sinclair. You can also check my website out. It's up now and running. www.ShaunSinclair.com. You can also go to pennypenpublishing.com, or you go to DonDiva.com, DonDivaMag.com, and see the articles I write for Don Diva pretty much 3 or 4 times a week, as well as LetIsh.com, and check out some of the articles I write there as well.
All right.
Shaun, can you tell us the spelling of your first name, please?
S-H-A-U-N. That's Shaun. S-H-A-U-n.
Okay.
Yeah, you can contact me on social media, Casper Hill, on Facebook, and on Instagram, Author Casper Hill. You can purchase my book on Amazon.com. My Team Success website is under construction, so that'll be up soon. Like I said, I go to jails to help make change schools. I love walking the streets, telling people. I'm never too far from the reader. Like, I teach how to do real estate. So a lot of times people ask me questions about their city. I help them get information, get connected. I would never be too far from my readers. I live to help people because I've been truly blessed. So, like I said, I'm working on getting in nationwide, different stores around the world. Like I said, this journey is still a little new for me, but I'm working very hard and just getting that message out there to people.
I was going to say, as long as you've got that man sitting over there
Yes.
at the end of the table,
Yeah.
you're going to be all right.
Like we talked about earlier, he's definitely been one of the people that was very influential in my change. When I got arrested the last time in 2011, he used to come down to my store, do signs. He was actually one who got me connected with a lot of different authors and helped me. When I got arrested that last time, he wrote me from day one and stuck by me through the whole time, just telling me, break that cycle. He knew I had been in the streets over 25 years, just like he was, but he changed before me. And he just helped me make that transition.
All right.
I live to help people do that today.
All right.
So thank you.
Giving back. We love it.
I'm on Facebook, author Quashon Davis. Instagram, same thing. And you can always find me through Kisha Green, who takes my money every month. So
Okay.
Because books are a business, that's why.
All right. We have a question. Go ahead. Huh?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw this question in there. What I want to ask is, the saturation of urban literature is, I equate it to how hip hop is like, really depending on if you're old school head or these young, thank you, these young bucks, they are something different. You know what I mean? But a pure hip hop, fan, hip hop, and the industry is totally different. And my question is, with the saturation of the urban literature genre, do you foresee that possibly hurting it, or do you think? Well, some people say any publicity is good publicity, but do you think with the oversaturation in the market it's hurting it, or is it helping?
I think the state of urban literature is pretty cool right now. No matter how many titles are out there, no matter how many I guess extended genres open up from urban literature, the amount of material out there is not going to damage it. It's based on the quality. If there was 5 trillion books out there that were all really good, that were all dope books, they're going to continue selling. If there was 5 trillion out there that was trash, they might either stop selling or the standard is going to go really low. So it doesn't matter how many's out there. It all depends on the quality of that work, whether it be music, film, books, no matter what it is. You have everything from food, chicken, clothing. If the quality is dope, it's going to stand out no matter what, no matter how much of it is out there.
Well, I say, drawing your parallels to music. I'm like you, I grew up on hip hop. So yeah, I think a lot of the music out there today is trash. But dude, I'm 30-something years old. If I like the same thing 18-year-old like, something wrong with me.
Yeah, this is true. This is
right,
definitely
you're
true.
right.
I have 17-year-old twins. They want a Millie Rock, and I want a Utah. So it's just like it's different things. I'm listening to the music that they listen to, and they're looking at me sideways, and I'm looking like, what do you mean this is music? Even on our car ride up here, 45 minutes in the car, I'm listening to 90s R&B, and she's like tuned out. You know, she want to listen to Lemonade. And it's like, girl, we ain't listening to that. I told them, like, we're not doing that. And I think with the books, it's the same thing. We have the newbies. T Styles calls them Kindle babies. You have the Kindle babies, and then you have the vets. And like bridging that gap, I don't think that the industry will die down. I think that the good will come to the top. The cream rise to the top. That whatever that saying is. I think it can recultivate and be wonderful because there's so many talented writers out there that don't get to shine because they're not popular or they're not in with the in crowd or they don't have this massive distribution and books are not on Walmart shelves. I've read plenty of books that need to be on Walmart shelves,
Yes.
and some of the books that I've seen in Target and Walmart need to be taken down to make room for those books. So for me, I'm always team independent, team self-publishing person, because I believe in us. We all are self-published, and we get a bad rap because a couple of bad apples do put some garbage out there, but they don't speak for me, because what I do and what I stand for is about quality, and I associate with those types. So I feel like we can make it better. We just, got to keep at it.
To add to that,
Go ahead.
the common denominator is this: whether you're reading great books or trash books, you're still reading. So as long as people are reading, the industry will be in good.
Exactly.
Good space.
Definitely.